with System 1357. And today we're going to talk about staying positive through all the chaos that's going on. It's going to go on again, and it's happened before, and chaos is the new normal, sometimes people say. But today we're going to talk to Pat Domenico. He's the founder of Resilient Dads, and he's done some amazing things on his journey, and we're going to explore what positive mental attitude really means. So go get yourself a glass of water, tune in, I'll play a little video, and we'll get Pat up, and we'll talk about positive mental attitude. Good to see you here. All right, we're live. So welcome, everybody. Anyone that's tuned in, please let us know where you're from. But more importantly, if you've got any questions for Pat, please put them in the chat so we can help answer them for you, because Pat's got a wealth of knowledge. So without any further ado, let's introduce Pat Domenico. All right, Pat, I'll let you in from the back room into the front room. Hey, Pat. How you doing, mate?
How you doing?
Good. I don't know about you, but it's hot over here where I am. So you're over Perth. I'm on the East Coast in Sawtell. I know it gets hot over there, but how is it today?
It's not too bad. Bit of overcast, so it's keeping the temperature nice and cool. But definitely glad to be here again and doing another session on something really important: how to stay positive in the chaos.
Yeah, well, that's it. Positive mental attitude. Well, I talk about how hot it is at the moment. I have to tell the truth. I did just come in from a 3-hour surf. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. And hence the reason why I look like I've got a good suntan going, because I have been in the surf. Anyway, yeah, look, all the chaos, it's an interesting word, isn't it? Sort of chaos is sort of the new normal, right? And, I don't know if it's ever changed. Chaos is always normal, especially if you're successful, especially if you're busy, or especially if you're striving to be successful. There's lots of things happening. It's easy to get knocked around, knocked to the ground, and have to get back up again. And that's what's called a positive mental attitude. But what's it really mean? I mean, you've got a good backstory. So tell us a little bit about where you come from before we get into it. You've come from construction. You've been quite successful. So explain to everyone some of your background.
So, yeah, I started as a carpenter at 17-year-old, started as an apprentice, and then worked my way to have my own concreting paneling business as a contractor. Started at the age of 26. And within 6 months, things were going well, and I decided that I love business that much, and I didn't have enough to do, so I'll add on another business. So we started, contracting, doing carpentry as well for builders that we'd been already doing some work for. And then within another 6 months, so within 12 months of starting my first business, I had 3 businesses going. Started a fabrication business for trailers, and so I thought, this works all well. I've got a concrete paneling business, a carpentry business, and then the contractors or the tradies that we engage or work with, they'll need trailers. So I'm leveraging our opportunities, and so that's kind of my initial introduction into business. And to give you a bit of a story on what one of my situations where I really had to engage my positive mental attitude in business was by the end of the second year of business for me. I realized that I wasn't putting enough focus into the the businesses, all the businesses. And the concrete paneling business was doing really well, but the carpentry started to lack. So I decided that that wasn't going to be something I was going to continue. But I got a nice surprise from my business partner at the time in the trailer manufacturing business that he was going to leave just before I got 7 days notice just before Christmas. And I was more on the management side of the business, so looking after the operations, and had no idea how to weld or much to do with the actual manufacturing side or fabrication of the trailers. So I was fortunate enough that at least we had a team of fabricators and spray painters and so forth. But I had to quickly learn one, how to build a closer rapport with the team, and also be able to ensure that they were all clear on what the situation was, and for me to work out how am I going to get out of this situation that I'm in, and be able to make sure that all the customers that we've promised the orders to, and that we've taken deposits from, and all the suppliers that we've taken materials from, that everyone's going to receive what they've purchased or what they've supplied, and no one's going to be left with the bundle of mess. So I found myself on Christmas Eve working through the night, preparing trailers to get fitted off for Christmas morning orders, and it was an interesting, I'd say, couple of days working around the clock, sleeping on the couch in the office, getting a couple of hours sleep just to be able to keep going. And it really showed the importance of, one, leadership. As part of System 1357, the bottom and the foundation is leadership. So me staying positive in that situation really helped the team see that we're going to find a way through this. Because, Scotty, have you seen people that or leaders or a business that when they just put their hands up in the air and then the team just, they don't know what's going on, and things fall in a heap?
Yeah, like you talk about chaos. So you turned up to work, and that was not the day or the week or the finish to the year that you had planned, right?
Correct.
And that's normal in business. Anyone can manage business when it's easy, right? When things are happening, everything's going along smoothly. Look, anyone can do that. We never get tested until the chaos really appears. And that's when you had to dig deep and go, well, okay, how do I flip this situation? I'm in a situation, right? I call it, there's a bunch of issues you had to resolve, but how do I do that? And how do I resolve it positively? Must have been the mindset. And, you probably didn't plan on having to dig deep that week or that day, but then all of a sudden you had to go, okay, I have to own this, and I have to make it a better situation than it was before. But, how'd you do that? I mean, what made you go, no, this is not right. This needs to be better?
It's, for me, it's all about that. What is it that I can control? And I think that's something that people have to, ask themselves, to be able to analyze the situation. What attitude am I bringing to the situation, and what effort do I need to put? Because they're the only two real things that we're able to control at all times. We can't control our circumstances, what others do. I may have been left without a team, and I would have had to work out another way. But knowing that I'm going to be solution driven and I'm going to find a way was the answer that really helped me get to the outcome that I was after. I still had issues. We delivered the trailer Christmas morning. I got a call within half an hour from the purchaser, and he said, my trailer electric brakes have jammed on. I'm on a main road and it's smoking. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So I was already on the way home, as you can imagine, hardly any sleep. Had to call one of the guys, who came back, and it was just a wiring issue that his electric brakes were automatically locking on.
It's funny.
And,
it's funny how you have to respond to those things, right? But, it's that attitude of, it's that positive attitude. We're talking business right now, but how many times? And by the way, here's Ken, one of the most positive guys I know on the internet. How you going, Ken? Good to have you over here from the States. And I know it's the evening over there. It's daytime here, but how many times do you hear like an Olympian who broke a leg or had some sort of adversity, then had to dig deeper than they've ever had to dig before, and they say that's the reason why they went on to qualify for the Olympics. It's the reason why they went on to win their medal at the Olympics, was because of the adversity that went wrong, the chaos that happened. Instead of having this smooth training run for 4 years in the Olympics, it went nothing like they planned. It was totally chaotic, and they had to flip and change. I mean, we hear that all the time, right? It's the same in business, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the, I've just actually finished challenging myself in an event for a 75-hour in the States, actually. And that taught me so many reminders and lessons again that we're far more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And when we avoid pain or challenges, that is just a message, that's an insight that we should be receiving, that there's something that we're not dealing with or we're avoiding. And when we know that all that is that pain and stress and all that is just a anticipation of future pain, then we know, okay, there's something that I need to address. So if we come in with that attitude of, okay, what is it that I need to do to be able to resolve this issue, instead of, this is too hard, I'm just going to leave it. And we can lose days, weeks, months on problems that if we just addressed from the start, we could deal with it while the issue is small, instead of getting too large. And so that's why I'm always driving with my team. I do a daily gratitude with my team, that what is one thing that you're grateful for? And when we get into that state of gratitude, it's a lot easier for us to stay positive, because what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad is always available. But it's what we choose to put our focus on, which is going to determine the outcome of our day or our life.
Yeah, well said. I mean, having a positive mental attitude and in all the chaos, it actually means there's chaos. It actually means things are going to go wrong. It means it's inevitable, right? It is the way life is, right? No one ever has a perfect run in life. Everyone always has adversity, but a positive mental attitude is more than just smiling a lot, right? Admittedly, can be outward positive, but it's also deeply positive. Having to dig deep in the real attitude and that responsiveness, just like you said, turning your negatives into positives. And you said something a minute ago about future pain or something. In other words, you're in, sometimes people have the ability to be able to turn their future into negatives, and it hasn't even happened yet. What was that? Explain that a bit more.
So when we feel like the emotions of feeling stressed or overwhelmed, it's just an anticipation of future pain. So we know that there's something that's going to happen, whether it's I need to get onto a call. There's a call that I need to make, but I'm avoiding it, or I'm anxious about it because I don't like the potential outcome that I'm going to get from it. But regardless of whether you make that call now, tomorrow, or end of the week, that situation is not going to go away. And that's one thing that I've really learned over the years. It's address what you need to as soon as possible, so you don't accumulate that and you're not carrying that with you through your day-to-day life. And that's why it's so important to be always prepared. That was one of the things that I learned from this 75-hour event that I recently did, was preparation is key. Success is when preparation meets opportunity. So if we're always looking after our health, the people around us, our relationships, our team members, our clients, our family, ourself, even the relationship with ourselves. If we're constantly looking after those things, we're able to deal with the challenges and the chaos that is going to happen, because the only people that have problems are the people that are no longer alive.
They're the ones without problems anymore. Nothing's a problem now.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah. So I think, if we take the mindset that problems it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth. It's feedback that there's something that we need to address. Being able to do an analysis. What is our situation? Like, how many times do we just constantly just drive through things without just stopping and just assessing, like, well, what's going on? Like, this is the situation. These are the conditions. This is, what I'm doing, and this is what I need to do to make the situation better. And then once we're prepared for what we're dealing with, we're able to come to the actual situation a lot, in a lot better state. So that's, I see why having a positive mental attitude is such an important thing, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's not just a buzzword either, right? And how you going, Bobby, over there in the States? Good to have you here. And certainly one of the fittest and smartest guys I know. So good to have you here, Bobby. Hey, listen, positive mental attitude, it's not just a buzzword, is it? Like, it's a real thing. I talk about it. Hang on. I talk about it as one of the habits of business judo. So positive mental attitude. It's that ability to be able to flip negatives into positives, or adversity and disadvantages into advantages, or opportunities into advantages. It's that positive mental attitude at all times. In other words, it's not glass half empty. It's okay, but where do I find the other glass, half a glass, and how can I fill it, and all those sort of positive things. Having a positive mental attitude doesn't mean things aren't going to go wrong.
No, not at all. And actually, things going wrong, I actually appreciate it, and that I see that there's something that I need for me to actually grow. There's a lesson in everything. You never fail. You're only learning. Like you're saying, be able to flip that switch to what is it that in terms of I can gain from the situation. Because if everything was easy and everyone was succeeding, well, what would be the joy in achieving anything? So that's where I see it's not just, like you're saying, a buzzword. It's essentially like a way of life that it's become for me.
I don't know. I'm going to put something to you, Pat. And we didn't prepare for all this, so this is just a general fly by our pants sort of conversation. But I'm going to suggest, and I don't know how you feel about this. So you've got your business, Resilient Dad and stuff like that. So you're exposed to a lot of resilience in the background for yourself and for some of your, I guess I'll call it clients or participants in your Resilient Dad courses, right? But every major setback I've ever had in my life actually turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. So in other words, if I didn't have those major things ever happen, I never would have had the ability to bounce out of the comfort zone, because I didn't want to go below there. Don't worry. I didn't want to be uncomfortable. I didn't want to have the bad things happen. But if I didn't have that bounce out of the comfort zone into a negative zone or a situation, I never would have had that bounce up into where I was really achieving more than I ever thought I could. So in other words, I needed things to get worse so they could get better. Now, I certainly don't want things to get worse today. It's not my plan ever. But I'm saying in my life and my experiences was every time things got worse, I actually turn around I look back and go, well, that was some of the best things that ever happened to me, because it made me do this, this, and this. And if it hadn't have been for that, I wouldn't have done that. And I would have stayed in that comfort zone forever. What do you think? Like, do we need adversity? Do we need that? We call it chaos, right? So positive mental attitude and all the chaos. But do we need adversity to make us dig deep and to stretch us to perform better than we ever thought we could? Is it like, I guess, a life requirement, even though we hate going through it? I can't say I want to have that car accident again. I never want to do that. I never want to go through that financial problem again. And I personally would never wish it upon anyone, but they were always the best. So the question to you is, do we need those to build up our resilience? I sort of think we do.
I believe we always need a challenge, that resistance to be able to push ourselves beyond what's comfortable. And that's where, if a lot of the times we can choose those challenges, or sometimes those challenges are going to happen to us unexpectedly, But if it becomes a way of life, and we're looking at those challenges as, okay, this is just this is the way just life is. There's things that are going to pop up that I'm not necessarily prepared for, but I know I'm capable of dealing with it. And being able to disconnect from the actual pain or the initial discomfort, I think that really helps for anyone to be able to move forward. To give you an example, with the 75-hour event that I just did, we started with 34 men. By hour 15, we'd already lost 20. And I'm talking about a lot of these men that rang the bell. I'd say half of them were more fitter than me, but it was not able to disconnect that the pain and discomfort is temporary. And I see that as the difference is just a mindset, that if we're understanding that all the challenges or anything that happens to us is temporary, and that it gives us an ability to grow. Because if we just get comfortable, comfort is essentially like the enemy. Because if we're constantly comfortable and we're not growing, when adversity comes our way, then we're going to find it really hard. And that's what I find with a lot of the people that I work with and that I've been engaging with, that they don't see that they're not necessarily challenging themselves on a daily basis. So I believe that it's important to choose your challenges, and that will give you the ability and the resilience to deal with the challenges that come that are unexpected.
Let's keep going with this pain and discomfort's temporary. I mean, they challenged and tested you on that in this course you did. But what about when it comes to business and us as mums and dads and normal people that are employed and things like that? I mean, it's really important to understand everything's just temporary. I mean, do you remember March, April to 2020 when the world was ending?
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first time ever the world had stopped.
There's a lot of emotions that are flying around at the time. And I think it's important that we understand that, one, this will end. Two, I'm not going to make a decision based on a temporary emotion, because whatever I'm going through will, eventually be dealt with. And three, as long as I stay positive throughout the situation, I know that this will be less it'll be less painful. I'm gonna have to go through the experience or the circumstance regardless. So why not try to make the most of it and look at how I can leverage the situation and get the positives out of the challenge that I'm going through. Because they're gonna arise, whether it's in business, whether it's in family, it's whether it's your health if you're not taking care of it, or your finances. All these, you're going to get challenges in all these areas, but how are you going to address it? Are you going to come at it with a positive attitude, or are you going to come at it with a negative one where it's poor me and it's too hard? If we choose, this is another thing another great lesson from the event. If we choose hard over easy, our life will be easy. But if we choose easy over hard, our life is going to be hard. So we always have the choice that, are we going to choose hard because we're going to want to have an easier life, or we're going to choose easy and comfort, and then when times get hard, it's going to be really hard for us.
Yeah, it's like a positive mental attitude in all the chaos. How do we stay positive? It's almost like muscle memory. In other words, a situation happens and you get the ability to be able to sit back and go, okay, well, what do I need to do? I might not be happy with the situation or the circumstance. It might be something that I caused or was out of my control, but either way, it's happened. Sometimes that positive answer is, well, I don't need to worry about that. It's just going to come and go, and I just triage it and I move on to what is going to be good. Or sometimes I have to deal with that situation like you did in business. You then had to deal with that and try to turn that into a positive. And not just for then, you had to turn it into a positive for next year. You lost a very important player in your business.
Yeah,
it wasn't
definitely.
3 days you were trying to find a solution for. You had to wrap up the year and then go, how do I survive next year with this? What do I need to do to flip this narrative around into an advantage? not just
Correct.
solve it, but advantage. So I think having a positive mental attitude and that ability to be able to go, okay, there's a situation. What do we do? I mean, anyone can find the problems, but not everyone can find the solutions. And you said something along that line earlier about being, I think you said solution oriented.
Solution driven.
Yeah, solution driven. Yeah. But not everyone has that ability to be able to do that every single time, day in, day out. Every time there's a situation, a circumstance, or an opportunity to go, okay, chaos can also be because of good things. You turn up to work and all of a sudden you've got too much business. It gets chaotic. It doesn't have to be because there's no business or there's a bad thing happening. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's chaos. You've got all these people wanting your stuff, and now all of a sudden you've got this dilemma to deliver. So chaos doesn't always have to be negative. It can also be positive, but you still have to deal with it. So if you go, okay, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to implement, change, encourage someone else to do? How do I do this? And actually, so everyone's happy. Everyone gets what they want. And I think it becomes part of your muscle memory, like any other exercise you do, right? What do you think about that when I say it becomes part of your DNA or muscle memory?
Yeah, it does. And it's a repetitive, it's a practice of discipline that creates that. So if we, it's going to be uncomfortable at the start, but then once you've done it, the next time will be easier, and so on. And then it's just like, we don't think about, how do we tie our shoelaces or how do we drive a car or the things that we repeatedly do on a daily basis. It's been a consistent action that's been done on a daily basis that's created that, that habit, that behavior, and that, the muscle memory to be able to do those activities without much effort. And that's the same with, having that positive mental attitude. It's always going to be hard at the start. If on a daily basis, if I've always been in a negative environment, had a negative mindset, at the start, it's always going to be difficult. But it's understanding that every day counts to building that muscle. It's like going to the gym. You need to break and tear that muscle for it to then grow, for then you to get stronger. So yeah, it's exactly like that.
It's interesting. I did like 8 years with the fire brigade in my local area, right, as a responding fireman. And we only ever trained for the negative things. We only ever trained for adversity, and there was no flipping that into positives. It was putting out a fire, or it was going to a car accident. There wasn't a lot of ability to be able to flip that into positives. So some environments, you mentioned it earlier, like the environments, for some people are really negative. So if I was a full-time fireman, I would be full-time in a negative environment, and I would have to dig deep to get out of that. So some people end up in an environment, even though it's their career, where they're surrounded by negatives all the time. There's some negative Nancy's, or the boss is a negative Nancy, and all of a sudden everything's always a problem. Everything's always an issue. So what's your advice then for someone that is in an environment that's negative and they're trying to be positive? They're trying to, get themselves out of the slumps or create a future for themselves, and they're thinking positive, but they can't. They're in an environment which is surrounding them with negative vibes all the time. What's your advice for that one?
One, taking responsibility. So part of the creed for the Modern Day Night event that I did was, I'm responsible for everything in my life, and that gives me the power and control to change my circumstances. So
say that again.
I'm responsible for everything in my life, and that gives me the power and control to change my circumstances. So understanding that we are in control of the decisions and the choices that we make in life. So if we're not happy with something, assess it. Do I need to edit, or do I need to eliminate? So what are the two that I need to do? Because if I decide to stay in that environment, that's a choice. And once we take ownership of our circumstances, then we have the ability to change it. But when we blame others and give that ownership to someone else, then that's where we lose all control and power. So what do we need to do in that environment? Can I edit it? And some things you can't eliminate, but you can definitely edit. So we're not in that environment all the time, hopefully, but if it's a choice, like in terms of, like you said, you might have a boss or a team member that's really negative. It's okay. What do I need to do? Do I need to edit? Can I fix? Can I do? Is there something that I can do to be able to make the situation better? And then if not, do I need to remove myself from the situation? And understanding that if I choose to stay there, then that's my decision.
It's still a choice.
But it's a choice.
It's still a choice.
But that's it.
In fact, I'd argue in some of that situation is where, and by the way, good to see you, Lydia. Good to have you here. That person probably needs something to go really wrong for them to be able to bounce out of that. They're uncomfortably numb. They're just in this negative environment, but they're comfortable. The salary's enough, and it's not that bad. It probably needs to get worse for them. It really needs to get worse for them to have to dig deep into their positive mental attitude and turn that world into chaos, so that way they bounce out of it into something more positive. That's what I would tend to think is a bit of a situation for that person. They're going to be comfortably numb if they're in that situation. It's just like they could have a year or two of just being in that environment, which they just don't really want to be in. So in that situation, they actually probably need a little bit more chaos, something else to go wrong, like preferably even lose their job, and then they go look for a better one.
Yeah. Or some people, it takes a health scare, as for instance, to be like, well, something's not right. And sometimes we look at just in terms of what is the symptom. But if we go deeper and seeing what the cause is, then we're able to analyze and see, okay, what is it? Is it my actual health? Might be high blood pressure, for an example. I had some pretty poor health circumstances a few years ago, but it's not the blood pressure. It's not necessarily the food that I was eating or the comfort eating. It was, there was a different cause. There was, the actual problem itself. So then being able to analyze that and saying, okay, this is what I need to edit and this is what I need to eliminate to get a different outcome.
Yeah, and that's attitude, right? And it's a buzzword. You hear it all the time. Attitude, positive mental attitude. But what's it really mean? Now, I'm going to say, I didn't write any notes down, but you must have said a dozen, at least, one-liners today that were just amazing. In summarizing what we just spoke about, unfortunately, there was too many. So, I grabbed one and put it up on the caption, right? That's as fast as I could go. But in wrapping up, do you reckon there's 3 you could share right now? 3 things that people could use, or what you said. Do you remember 3 good ones? I took this one away, which was the temporary one.
Pain is temporary.
Yeah, the pain and discomfort is temporary, right? So you said something about decisions. So that and 2 more. Can you just, as we close, let's wrap up on this, because we could talk about this. Well, I certainly can. I mean, I wrote about it in my book, The 5 Systems of Successful People. It starts with positive mental attitude and finishes with attitude. But just in your own words, positive mental attitude, just 3 things. One I really liked and I wrote down, but 3 things you can quickly give to the audience they can take.
Understanding that you're always in control, and taking responsibility of your circumstances gives you the ability to change what you need. And then from there, being able to analyze what is it that you need to do to either edit, eliminate, to make a situation better. The only 2 things you're able to control is your attitude and your effort with everything. Not everything's always going to go right, but as long as you're aware of your attitude and your effort, that's going to contribute to achieving the success that you're after, or the outcome that you're after. And that, pain is temporary. Everything that you're going through is temporary. Regardless of how difficult it may be, you'll look back at it in the future and see that it wasn't as bad. So not dealing with things is only going to cause more stress and anxiety. So the pain and stress and anxiety is only a signal of future pain. So having that positive mental attitude and being able to address it and know that it's only temporary is going to help you, achieve a far better, outcome and an enjoyable life with whatever you're doing.
And, and the other thing is, it's not just negative situations, it's also the positive. Sometimes when things go really good, it's also chaotic. It's like, so much to be done. What do I do? Well, you still have to have positive mental attitude to get through that chaos. So we often have chaos with negative, and it's true, but there's also the positive chaos as well, right? The good times where it's so busy and I have to deliver this. It's leading up to Christmas. Everyone wants their stuff and you have to deal with it. So yeah, mate, that's so good to have you on, Pat. I mean, I know you've got the Resilient Dad. Just quickly, Resilient Dad, you know, you have done a really good job with that in a very short time, right? And you love the word resilience. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's essentially a way. It's become a way of life for me, and it's a great way of summing up, my life in general.
Yeah, and it is resilience that makes successful people, right? It's their ability to be able to handle the good and bad times and turn all those into positives, right? And turn those into outcomes that help, outcomes they actually really want to achieve, as opposed to what they're given. It's that ability to grit and determination and that resilience to get through the good and the bad times. So I love that. But there's been some really good comments online too, which is excellent. So thanks heaps everyone for tuning in. How do people find out more about Pat and what Pat does?
Yeah, they can reach out to us on LinkedIn or head over to our website, resilientdad.com. But LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me personally.
Well, I actually follow your Instagram page as well as your Facebook page, as
Yeah.
well as your LinkedIn page. So I follow you everywhere. So you can find Resilient Dad and Pat Domenico in a number of places. And my favorite, of course, is LinkedIn because it's a business platform. I love business. But yeah, so there is multiple ways people can follow you. And quickly, Ken's just thrown one more comment up here. So thanks, Ken, for that. You're dead set right. And that is positive mental attitude. But yeah, do yourself a favor if you haven't bought the book yet. Positive Mental Attitude is definitely in the start of the book, and it talks about dealing with it and how to deal with it. And I know you've read the book and you got a copy yourself, Pat. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But do yourself a favor if you haven't got the book, get a copy of the book. But meantime, if you want to reach out to Pat, reach out to Pat. He does have a website you can follow. You can also join and listen to his podcast interviews he does as well about building up resilience, which is awesome. So on that note, any other final things you'd like to say, Pat?
Just everyone, see challenges as an opportunity, and you're definitely stronger than you think you are. So stay resilient.
Oh, stronger than you think you are. That is so good. So true. Well said, mate. I think we'll wrap it up on that.
Thanks, buddy.
I don't think there's much else to say other than, look, thank you everyone for coming. Thanks everyone attending. Thanks for everyone for their participation and letting us know where they're from. And Pat, most importantly for you, thanks for making yourself available for everyone to just help them through that chaos with a positive mental attitude. So thanks heaps, mate. On that note, we'll see you later, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Everyone.